There is a force shaping the global economy that we almost never talk about. It's not governments and it's not the CEOs we all know. It's families. Not your family or mine, I'm talking about dynasties. Families so powerful, they don't just run companies, they run industries, economies, sometimes entire countries. So today I want to map this out. The biggest business dynasties in the world. How they started, how they built their empires, and what that means for the rest of us. Okay, here's how I'm defining it. 1. They must directly control a company that dominates a country or a sector. 2. Their influence has to go beyond business into politics, culture, or media. And 3. They can't just be rich locally, their power has to cross borders. So let's start in India. The Ambani family empire begins with this guy, Dhirubhai Ambani. In the 60s, he was just a gas station attendant in Yemen. He comes back to India with almost nothing, but with one big idea: build a textile company. He starts importing polyester, spinning fabrics, and cheap to India's growing middle class. The business takes off, but Dhirubhai doesn't stop there. He sees opportunity in oil, in refining, in chemicals, and then his sons, Mukesh and Anil, inherit the empire. And that's when it explodes. Today, Reliance is worth $250 billion. That's bigger than the GDP of countries like Greece or Portugal. They control India's biggest refinery, its biggest telecom network, a retail empire, media companies, even Bollywood distribution and cricket teams. It went from one man hustling polyester to a family so powerful people call them the shadow government of India. Now let's go to the UAE. The Nahyan family's story starts not with oil, but with poverty. Just a century ago, Abu Dhabi was a tiny desert settlement living off pearl diving. Then in the 50s, they found oil. Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan becomes ruler in 1966, and he does something different. Instead of letting foreign companies drain the profits, he consolidates control and sets up a sovereign wealth fund. That fund is called the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority and is now worth over $1 trillion. And it's not just investing in oil, it's in New York skyscrapers, European football clubs, Tesla, SpaceX, and Uber. This is their strategy: turn oil into financial power, and then turn financial power into cultural power. Because when you see Manchester City lifting the Premier League trophy, you're not just watching football, you're watching a dynasty rebranding a nation. Okay, now to America. Forget Silicon Valley founders for a second. The richest dynasty in the US isn't the Musks or the Bezoses, it's the Waltons, the family behind Walmart. And it all starts with this guy, Sam Walton, in 1962. He opens a single discount store in Rogers in Arkansas. His pitch is super simple: sell goods cheap and make it up in volume. But here's the thing, Sam Walton isn't just a shopkeeper, he's obsessed with logistics. So he builds one of the most efficient supply chains in history. Fast forward, Walmart becomes the world's largest retailer, over 10,000 stores, 2 million employees. And here's the thing, the Waltons still own half the company, which means every hour they make over $4 million in dividends, more than most Americans make in a lifetime. At this point, Walmart isn't just a store, it's an economic lever big enough to shape trade with China, pressure suppliers around the world, and dictate wages for millions. They have the leverage of a nation-state, and yet no one voted for the Waltons. In Nigeria, the dynasty story is about cement. Aliko Dangote starts small, selling sugar and flour in the 70s. He gets government licenses, imports commodities, and builds relationships with politicians. But the real play is cement. Africa is urbanizing fast. Skyscrapers, bridges, housing, all of it needs cement. So Dangote builds plants across West Africa, undercutting foreign competitors and locking down the market. Now he's building a massive oil refinery so big it could meet all of Nigeria's fuel needs. That means the Dangote family doesn't just make money, they control the backbone of an entire nation's economy. When a country of 220 million people fills up their cars, it's one man's family company deciding the price. Okay, back over here to Latin America. In Mexico, the Slim's story starts in 1911, when Carlos Slim's father, a Lebanese immigrant, opens a small dry goods store in Mexico City. Carlos grows up learning about investing. In the 80s, Mexico goes through a debt crisis. The The government privatizes its telecoms. Carlos swoops in, he buys Telmex, the state phone company, at a fire sale price. And then, he doesn't really allow much competition. For decades, if you wanted to make a phone call or get internet in Mexico, you paid Carlos Slim. He built a monopoly so profitable that at one point, he was the richest man in the world. But there is a small hiccup. When one family controls communication infrastructure, it holds back innovation. Economists estimated Slim's monopoly cost Mexico 2% of GDP growth per year. In Asia, South Korea's dynasty story is about Samsung. The Lee family started Samsung in 1938 as a small trading company selling noodles and dried fish. After the Korean War, founder Lee Byung-chul pivots. He gets into textiles, insurance, and then electronics. By the 70s, Samsung is building semiconductors. By the 2000s, it's making the world's most popular phones. But here's the crazy part. Samsung today accounts for almost 20% of South Korea's GDP. One company, one family, almost a fifth of a nation's economy. That means when Samsung stumbles, Korea stumbles. And when the Lee family gets caught up in corruption, which has happened, presidents pardon them. Because Samsung is literally too big to fail. Okay, let's head to Europe. Here in Italy, there is a family that basically built modern Italy's identity, the Agnellis. It starts in 1899, when Giovanni Agnelli helped found a tiny car company in Turin, Fiat. At the time, Italy didn't even have proper highways, but over the next century, Fiat would become the car maker of Italy, powering taxis, trucks, luxury cars, even Ferraris. But the Agnellis weren't just car makers, they were king makers. Through the holding company Exor, they built influence that stretched way beyond cars. They bought into newspapers, they owned Juventus, Italy's most successful football club, and they held quiet sway in politics, deciding who could rise and who couldn't. By the late 20th century, people in Italy used to say there were two governments, the official one in Rome, and then the one in Turin, run by the Agnellis. And even today, the dynasty is still in control. Through Exor, the family runs Stellantis, the fourth largest car maker in the world, alongside Ferrari, The Economist magazine, and Juventus. So when you zoom out, you see a pattern. These dynasties aren't just rich families, they're systems. They build companies that grow so big they blur into politics, into culture, into everyday life. They own the products you buy, the teams you cheer for, the media you consume. And because of that, they shape nations in ways presidents and prime ministers can't. And that's the thing about dynasties. They don't get voted in, they don't get voted out. They're not temporary, they're permanent fixtures of the global economy. So if you want to understand how the world really works, don't just follow GDP numbers, stock tickers, or government policies. Follow the families. Because money is power, but family turns power into something even stickier, legacy. And that legacy is what keeps them on the map, decade after decade, shaping the future in ways most of us never see, but all of us feel and buy.